To save my brother, I married a mafia leader, and I don't know what to do next. I never thought I'd be in a situation like this, but here I am. My life has turned into something out of a crime drama, and I'm completely lost. I need to get this off my chest and maybe get some advice. Here's my story. I'm a 26-year-old woman, and until 6 months ago, I was living a pretty normal life. I had a decent job as a graphic designer, a small apartment in the city, and a close relationship with my younger brother, Jake, 23. Our parents died in a car accident when we were teenagers, so we've always been really tight, looking out for each other. Jake has always been a bit of a wild child. He's smart but impulsive, and he's gotten into trouble before. But nothing prepared me for the call I got from him late one night. He was sobbing, barely coherent. "Sis, I fucked up. I fucked up bad," he kept saying. After calming him down, I got the story out of him. He'd gotten involved with some shady people, thinking he could make some quick cash. He ended up owing a local mafia family a huge amount of money, way more than he could ever pay back. They'd given him an ultimatum: pay up in full within a week, or they'd kill him. I was terrified. I knew these people weren't joking around, but there was no way we could come up with that kind of money in a week. I spent the next few days frantically trying to figure out a solution. I considered going to the police, but Jake swore that would only make things worse. In desperation, I decided to try talking to the mafia boss directly. Maybe I could negotiate some kind of payment plan, or find another way to save Jake. It was a long shot, but I had to try. Through some connections of Jake's, I managed to set up a meeting with the boss, Antonio Caruso. I was expecting some stereotypical old Italian guy, but Antonio turned out to be in his late 30s, sharp-dressed and annoyingly handsome. I pleaded Jake's case, offering to take on his debt myself if they'd spare his life. Antonio listened quietly, studying me with intense dark eyes. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and said something I'll never forget. "I'll forgive your brother's debt entirely, but on one condition. You have to marry me." I thought he was joking at first, but his expression was dead serious. He explained that he needed a wife for appearances, someone respectable to be seen with at social events, and to help legitimize some of his businesses. In return, he'd ensure Jake's safety and even set him up with a legitimate job far away from the criminal world. I was stunned. This was insane. Marry a mafia boss to save my brother. It sounded like the plot of a bad movie. I told Antonio I needed time to think. The next few days were a blur. I weighed my options, but it felt like an impossible choice. Let my brother die, or tie myself to a dangerous criminal for life. In the end, my love for Jake won out. I agreed to Antonio's terms. Everything happened so fast after that. Within 2 weeks, I was standing in a lavish church, saying I do to a man I barely knew and feared. Jake was there, looking simultaneously grateful and guilty. As soon as the ceremony was over, Antonio had him on a plane to the other side of the country, where he'd be starting his new life. That was 4 months ago. Since then, my life has become completely unrecognizable. I now live in Antonio's sprawling mansion, a palatial estate that seems more like a fortress than a home. The luxury is overwhelming. Marble floors, priceless artwork, a pool that looks like it belongs in a resort. But amidst all this opulence are constant, chilling reminders of Antonio's true business. Armed guards patrol the grounds 24/7. They're polite to me, but their eyes are always watchful, and the bulges of their concealed weapons are impossible to ignore. Security cameras cover every angle, their red lights blinking silently, a constant reminder that I'm always being watched. The worst part is the snippets of conversations I overhear. One day, I was walking past Antonio's study when I heard him say, "No, we need to send a message. Break his legs, but make sure he can still talk." Another time, at a dinner party, I overheard one of Antonio's associates casually discussing disposal methods while sipping expensive champagne. These moments make my blood run cold, reminding me of the violent world I'm now part of. To his credit, Antonio has kept his word so far. He's been surprisingly considerate, given the circumstances. He doesn't force himself on me physically. We have separate bedrooms on opposite ends of the mansion. I'm grateful for this small mercy, but the emotional toll of living with a virtual stranger, especially one I fear, is immense. Antonio seems intent on playing the role of a doting husband. He takes me to Michelin-starred restaurants, buys me designer clothes, and brings me to high society events where we mingle with politicians and celebrities. The first time he presented me with a diamond necklace worth more than my old annual salary, I nearly threw up. How many lives were destroyed to pay for this extravagance? On the surface, he treats me well. He's unfailingly polite, asks about my day, and seems to genuinely want me to be comfortable. But beneath his charm, there's always an undercurrent of danger. His eyes are too sharp, his smile a little too practiced. I never forget who he really is or what he's capable of. One misstep, one wrong word, and I fear I could disappear without a trace. I've had to quit my job, of course. My days now revolve around a surreal routine that feels like a bizarre play I've been cast in without knowing the script. I manage the household staff, a small army of maids, cooks, and groundskeepers who regard me with a mixture of curiosity and fear. I attend charity galas and social luncheons as the respectable Mrs. Caruso, plastering on a smile and making small talk while my insides churn with anxiety. Jake calls me once a week from his new life across the country. These calls are both a lifeline and a source of gut-wrenching guilt. He's doing well, working an honest job as a manager at a tech startup and staying far away from any illegal activities. He's even started dating a nice girl he met at work. Every time we talk, Jake thanks me for what I did. "You saved my life, sis," he'll say, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll never be able to repay you." I can hear the guilt weighing on him, and it breaks my heart. I always tell him I'm fine, that everything's okay, but it's getting harder to lie convincingly. Sometimes, after these calls, I cry for hours. The truth is, I'm terrified and confused almost all the time. I feel like I'm living a double life, and the strain of maintaining this facade is slowly breaking me. To the outside world, I'm the elegant, charming wife of a successful businessman. I attend galas, cut ribbons at charity events, and schmooze with the elite of the city. But behind closed doors, I'm a prisoner in a gilded cage, married to a man who orders killings as casually as he orders coffee. There have been moments when I've seen glimpses of humanity in Antonio. Once, he spent an entire day playing with kids at a children's hospital, his face lit up with genuine joy as he handed out gifts and told jokes. Another time, I overheard him on the phone, ensuring that the widow of one of his men would be taken care of financially for life. "She's family," he said firmly, "and we take care of our own." These moments confuse me. They make me wonder if there's more to Antonio than the cold-blooded criminal I first met. But then I'll see him whispering with his lieutenants in the study, and the look in his eyes, hard, calculating, devoid of mercy, reminds me of exactly who he is and what he's capable of. The cognitive dissonance is maddening. How can the same man who tenderly kisses my cheek in the morning be the one ordering brutal messages to be sent to rivals? How can the hands that gently massage my shoulders when I'm tense be the same ones that sign off on shipments of illegal weapons? I've thought about running away more times than I can count. In my darkest moments, I've even contemplated ending it all, just to escape this surreal nightmare I'm living in. But I know that's not an option. Antonio's reach is too wide, his network too vast. I'm certain he'd find me, or worse, take revenge on Jake. The thought of my brother paying the price for my actions is unbearable. Plus, part of our original deal was that I'd stay married to Antonio for at least 5 years. If I try to leave before then, all bets are off for Jake's safety. So I'm trapped, counting down the days, months, years, until I might have a chance at freedom. The worst part is that I'm starting to forget who I used to be. The old me. The independent, idealistic woman who wanted to make a difference in the world feels like a distant memory. I catch myself enjoying the luxury sometimes, or laughing genuinely at one of Antonio's jokes, and then I'm overwhelmed with guilt and self-loathing. Am I losing myself? Am I becoming one of them? There are nights when I lie awake, staring at the ornate ceiling of my bedroom, wondering how I ended up here. I think about the life I could have had, the choices I could have made differently. But then I remember Jake's voice on the phone, alive and well, and building a future for himself. And I tried to convince myself it was worth it. But was it? And even if it was, how do I live with myself now? How do I reconcile the comfortable lifestyle I now have with the knowledge of where it comes from? I'm constantly on edge, wondering if today will be the day when Antonio's enemies come for us, or the police finally bust down our doors. I guess what I'm really struggling with are these questions. How do I maintain my own identity and values in this situation? I feel like I'm slowly losing myself, adapting to this world of crime and luxury. Is there any way I can use my position to do some good? I have access to resources now, but I'm afraid of overstepping or drawing attention to myself. How do I deal with the guilt? Not just for the illegal things I'm now adjacent to, but for actually starting to care about Antonio sometimes, despite knowing what he does. Am I a terrible person for sometimes enjoying the perks of this lifestyle, even though I know where it comes from? Is there any hope for a future beyond this, or have I sealed my fate by making this deal? I know this is an extreme situation, and maybe there aren't any good answers. But if anyone has any advice or just words of support, I could really use them right now. I feel so alone in this golden prison I've found myself in. Thanks for reading this far. It helps just to get this off my chest.